Applied with the law is through the legal process.
Order. Order. Question number 2, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Tēnā koutou te whare. Has Cabinet, my question is to the Minister for Economic Development and asks, has Cabinet discussed delaying the passage of the New Zealand International Convention Centre Bill until the John Banks prosecution is resolved? If not, why not?
Mr. Speaker,
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, no, and I'm relatively new here, but it's my understanding that the Executive proposes legislation and then a properly constituted Parliament of the House of Representatives debates and votes on the legislation. I dare say that is what will actually happen in this case.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Has Cabinet discussed the conflict of interest arising from Mr Banks having a crucial vote on the Sky City deal, at the same time as Sky City is a witness in the court proceedings against Mr Banks regarding a $15,000 donation that Mr Banks received from Sky City?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not really sure what the member is trying to infer here, but my understanding is that Parliament gets to vote on legislation, and every member of Parliament in this House has the opportunity to do that and vote according to how their party and their caucus wants them to vote. And I think that is what is appropriate. It's generally what occurs, and I'm sure that's what will occur in this case.
Point of order, sir.
Point of order, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question expressly asked, has the Cabinet discussed the conflict of interest? He did not answer
I agree with the point the member's raising. Would she please ask the question again?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Has Cabinet discussed the conflict of interest arising from Mr Banks having a crucial vote on the Sky City deal, at the same time as Sky City is a witness in the court proceedings against Mr Banks regarding a $15,000 donation that Mr Banks received from Sky City?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, I reject much of the supposition contained in that question, but the answer is still no, same as it was for the primary.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Why doesn't the Minister believe that there is a conflict of interest when Mr Banks' seat in this House is potentially dependent on the evidence that Sky City will present at his criminal trial, and Sky City's $400 million deal could stand or fall on Mr Banks' vote?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, this Parliament is the master of its own destiny, and every MP that sits here because of this Parliament and are entitled to do so. And while they're here, I presume they're entitled to vote. I might be old-fashioned in that respect, but that was my understanding of it.
Point of order, sir.
Supplementary question.
Point of order.
Point of order. 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 This is a point of order, and it will be order. Order. A point of order has been called, and there were interjections coming from 2/4 of the House. If that continues, you leave me with no choice but ask the member interjecting through a point of order to leave the chamber. Point of order, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Again, my question expressly concerned whether he believed there was or was not a conflict of interest.
Order. I listened carefully to the question, and on this occasion, the Minister addressed it to my satisfaction.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does the Minister believe it is good for democracy to pass a law benefiting Sky City while relying on the vote of a man whose seat in this House and even his freedom may depend on the testimony that Sky City presents at his criminal trial?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Speaking to the question, Mr Speaker, there's two answers to it. Firstly, I disagree in the member's characterisation of the benefits of the legislation. The benefit of this legislation is to the people of Auckland and to the people of New Zealand, who would obtain a $400 million convention centre for the benefit and economic growth and jobs in this country, Mr Speaker. And I know that member disagrees, but it is democratic for people to have different views.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question. Order. 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 Supplementary question, Dr. Nick Smith.
What reports has the Minister received on the precedent that was set when retrospective legislation for paying for the credit card cost in the 2005 election came before the Parliament, in which every member of the government had a vested interest
Point of order.
of not having to...
Point of order.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point. Order.
Naming any of them?
Point of order. Grant Robertson.
Mr Speaker, that is, I cannot see how that could possibly be relevant to the primary question.
And I agree with the member. Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Order.
Does the Minister think that a government deal that causes people harm in order to increase casino profits, does he think that a government deal that causes people harm in order to increase casino profits is morally bankrupt?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, I completely disagree with the premise of that member's question. And here is the problem, Mr Speaker. The tenor of the questions of the member today is that she doesn't want a properly constituted parliament of this country to vote on this legislation because she disagrees with it. Sorry, Mr Speaker, that is wrong.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Will the Minister meet with the victims of problem gambling and explain to them why he feels comfortable using the vote of a disgraced MP to pass a law that will increase the harm that problem gambling causes to our communities?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, everybody has a different view on what's disgraceful. And I think it's actually reasonably disgraceful to run a political campaign with taxpayers' money during a term. But that's just my view. And, of course, what is allowed to be done is allowed to be done. But here's my view on that, Mr Speaker, is that every human activity involves some risk. Every risk has to be managed, and that's what happens. And the member, unless she's proposing to ban casinos and ban all gambling and ban lotteries, has no right to lecture me on that subject.
Point of order, sir.
Order. 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 A point of order has been called. Point of order, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I expressly asked the Minister, will he meet the victims of problem gambling?
Order. The question was far more loaded than that. Question number 3.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Isn't this the truth of the matter, Minister, that the Sky City Bill...
Order. The member has a right to ask a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Isn't this the truth of the matter? The Sky City Bill is a sleazy deal in which his government trades harm to its citizens...
That question is now out of order.
Point of order, sir.
I just want to check, first of all, that the member's not going to question a decision I've just made.
No, I'm not going to question your decision.
Point of order, Metiria Turei.
Mr Speaker, I would like your reasoning as to why you now consider that question out of order.
Order. I don't need assistance. The member can just go back and look at the wording of her question and some of the words she used in that question, and I'm sure she'll figure it out for herself. Can I just again clarify we're not in any way questioning a ruling I've given, then I'll have a fresh point of order.
Sir, does your ruling now mean that the word sleazy is a prohibited word in this Parliament?
No, it does not.
Point of order, sir. Point of order,
Can
sir.
I just remind the member, because she's getting very, very close to having to be asked to leave the chamber, if she continues to raise points of order which I consider are trifling with the chair, Speaker's rulings, past 20/8 from memory, will suggest she leaves me with no choice.
I understand, sir.
Okay, we'll hear one more, hopefully, one more point of order.
Sir.
Point of order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. At the point that you declared my question out of order, which is your right to do so, the only phrase I had used was sleazy deal. I'm not sure what part of that phrase is out of order.
The member will resume her seat. I have ruled the question out of order. That is the end of the matter. It's not something that is relitigated in this House. Question number 3, Nikki Wagner.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister.
Point of order, Grant Robertson.
Mr Speaker, it has been the practice under your term as Speaker for members both of the government and of opposition parties to seek clarification from you on rulings. That is a perfectly legitimate part of all the time I've been in the chamber that has been done, and that when a ruling appears to be a new one, members have the right to raise points of order with you, and you have in the past responded. Or if not today, you come back with a considered ruling to explain why you made the ruling you'd made. I think that would be the appropriate course in this case.
I agree with the member. And Metiria Turei raised and said, is sleazy now an unparliamentary term? And I said no. Is there a point of order from Right Honourable Winston Peters? Question number 3, Nikki.
Point of order, sir. Point of order, sir.
Well, I will hear, but I just want to warn the member that if we're any way addressing a decision I've made, I will be immediately, sadly, asking the member to leave the chamber.
Absolutely, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Metiria Turei.
My point of order to you, sir, is...
I just want to check it's a fresh point of order.
It is a fresh point of order.
Good.
What part of my question was out of order?
The member will now leave the chamber. The member, order, I'm on my feet.
Point of order.
Point of order in Lees-Galloway.
Point of order. Point of order, Mr Speaker. I ask that...
Order. We have a point of order. And it will be heard in silence.
Mr Speaker, I ask that you reflect on the original decision to rule Metiria Turei's question out of order and perhaps bring a considered response back to the House, because you've now left members in a difficult situation, I submit, that it is difficult now to craft questions that are in order because we do not know why it was that Metiria Turei's question was out of order.
Speaking to the point of order, Honourable
Speaking to the point of order, Mr Speaker, I suggest that every member in this House has a responsibility to read standing orders. And if you read Standing Order 377, it makes it very clear, 3771B, arguments, inferences, imputations, epithets, ironical expressions or expressions of opinion, all of which would describe what that member said.
Order. I thank the member. I don't need further help on this point. In Lees-Galloway, order. In Lees-Galloway has asked a reasonable question. I will have a further consideration of it. But I again say exactly what I said to Metiria Turei. I think a reread of the supplementary question was asked would help in the member understanding. But I do want to point out, Metiria Turei was not asked to leave the House because she asked that question. She then continued to raise numerous points of order which were relitigating. Order! I'm on my feet. She continued to raise numerous points of order which were in effect relitigating a decision the Speaker had made.
Order.
Right Honourable Winston Peters, point of order.
Mr Speaker, I seek clarification. It's simply this. It's not to challenge your ruling, but to ask you, is that statement that rules out that word a precedent, or is it based on a precedent?
No. Again, the member is now raising exactly the same point of order that was raised by Metiria Turei, whether the word sleazy is unparliamentary. And I said, no, it was not necessarily unparliamentary. It was the total content of the question that I was not satisfied with. Question number 3.
Thank you, Mr
Nikki
Speaker.
Wagner.
To the Minister of Finance.